The silver ship appeared near Earth's moon on a Tuesday morning. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The ship looked like a giant needle made of metal and glass. Scientists around the world pointed their telescopes at it and took pictures. News reporters talked about it on every channel. Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of Luna Station. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been waiting for this day for 20 years. The alien ship sent a message. In perfect English, the voice was smooth and cold. Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Ambassador Catherine of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire. We come in peace to speak with your leaders. Sarah smiled, but it was not a happy smile. She had read every report about alien signals. The military had been preparing for this moment since the first radio telescopes heard strange sounds from space. They knew this day would come. The ambassador's shuttle landed at Luna Station 3 hours later. Kethron was tall and thin with blue skin and forearms. His clothes were made of fabric that seemed to glow. He walked with the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. Sarah met him in the main conference room. The walls were covered with pictures of Earth and its colonies. Mars, Europa, and Titan all had human cities now. But compared to the galaxy, humans were still very small. Admiral Chun, Kethran said with a bow, your species has impressed us. You have spread to 3 worlds in such a short time. Very efficient. Thank you, Sarah replied. She gestured to a chair. Please sit. We have many questions about your empire. Kethran's eyes glowed brighter. Of course. We control 847 star systems. Our empire has lasted for 10,000 years. We bring peace and order to the galaxy. Sarah nodded and took notes. How do you maintain peace across so many worlds? Simple, Kethran said. All worlds follow our laws. All species contribute to our empire. Those who resist are pacified. The word hung in the air like a threat. Sarah kept writing, but her hand moved a little faster. Around the table, other human officials listened carefully. They were all military officers dressed as diplomats. What kind of contributions do you expect? Asked Colonel Martinez, who specialized in logistics. Resources. Labor, soldiers for our fleets, Kethran said casually. Each world gives what it can. In return, we protect them from chaos and war. Dr. Hassan, who studied alien technology, leaned forward. Your ships are very advanced. How large is your military? Kethran seemed pleased by the question. Our fleet has over 50,000 ships. Our army numbers in the billions. No species has ever successfully resisted the Empire once we decide to integrate them. Sarah felt a chill, but she kept her face calm. Integration sounds very thorough. It is necessary, Kethran replied. The galaxy was chaos before our empire. Thousands of small wars between primitive species. We ended all that. Now there is order. The meeting continued for 6 hours. Kethran talked about the Empire's history, its technology, and its laws. He seemed to enjoy explaining how powerful they were. He told stories about other species that had tried to resist. None had succeeded. As the day ended, Kethran stood. Up, his forearms moved in a gesture that might have been politeness. Admiral Chun, I have enjoyed our conversation, but now we must discuss business. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. What kind of business? Your integration into our empire, Kethran said simply. Humanity has potential. Your expansion shows courage. But you are still primitive. You need our guidance. The room became very quiet. Sarah could hear the air recyclers humming in the walls. And if we prefer to remain independent? Kethran's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. Admiral, I have conquered 43 species in my career. Each one believed they were special. Each one thought they could stand alone against the Empire. They were all wrong. He walked to the window and looked out at Earth. The blue planet hung in space like a jewel. Your world is beautiful. It would be a shame to damage it. But the Empire's laws are clear. All species must join willingly or be pacified. Sarah stood up slowly. What exactly does pacification involve? Our fleet surrounds your worlds. We destroy all military installations. We occupy your cities. Your leaders are replaced with our governors. Your people work for the Empire's benefit. Catherine turned back to her. It is not pleasant, but it is effective. How long do we have to decide? Sarah asked. 72 hours, Catherine said. That is standard for primitive species. It gives you time to accept reality. Sarah nodded. We will need to consult with our governments. Of course. Catherine moved toward the door. I will return to my ship. When you are ready to surrender, simply send a message. The integration process will begin immediately. After the alien left, the room stayed quiet for a long time. Finally, Colonel Martinez spoke. Well, that was educational. Very? Sarah replied. She activated a secure communication channel. Command, this is Admiral Chun. The first contact protocols are complete. Begin operation preparation. On the secure channel, a voice responded immediately. Understood, Admiral. All fleets are standing by. The Devastation is ready to deploy. Sarah looked out at Earth again. The alien ship hung near the moon like a metal threat. But Catherine had made one crucial mistake. He thought 72 hours would be enough time for humans to accept defeat. He did not understand that humans had been preparing for this conversation for decades. While Catherine returned to his ship confident in victory, messages flashed across the solar system. Every human colony received the same order. Activate all defense protocols. Every ship, every station, every settlement began final preparations. The aliens thought they were giving humanity time to surrender. Instead, they had given humanity time to deploy everything they had built in secret. The Empire had conquered 43 species by overwhelming them before they could respond. But humanity had learned about the Empire years ago from radio signals. They knew this day would come. They had spent decades preparing for a war they hoped would never happen. As Sarah watched the alien ship, she thought about all the species that had surrendered in fear. But fear was something humans understood differently. On Earth, fear made people fight harder, not give up faster. Catherine would learn that lesson soon enough. The 72 hours were not for surrender. They were for humanity to show the galaxy. What happened when someone threatened Earth's children? The countdown had begun. The Zephyrian fleet arrived exactly 72 hours later. 200 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel around Earth. They formed a perfect sphere around the planet, each ship exactly the same distance from the others. It was the Empire's standard formation for pacification. Ambassador Catherine stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory. Through the transparent walls, he could see Earth spinning slowly below. The blue planet looked peaceful and defenseless. His sensors showed only scattered human ships, nothing that could threaten his massive fleet. Admiral Chun, he said into his communication device, your time is up. Have you reached a decision? Sarah's voice came back clear and calm. Yes, Ambassador. We have decided to show you something. Catherine frowned. That was not the response he expected. Species usually begged for more time or offered desperate bargains. Show me what? How humans fight, Sarah replied. The first sign of trouble came from his sensor officer. Sir, I am detecting movement in the asteroid belt. Multiple contacts. Catherine looked at his displays. Small ships were emerging from behind asteroids. They moved in groups of 3 or 4, spreading out in all directions. Patrol ships, he said dismissively. Begin the pacification. Destroy anything that moves. But something was wrong. The human ships were not attacking. They were running away in different directions, scattering like frightened animals. Some headed toward Mars. Others flew toward the outer planets. A few seemed to be fleeing toward deep space. "Cowards," said Captain Vorth, Cathrane's second in command. They abandoned their own world. Cathrane felt satisfied. This was how conquests usually went. The enemy realized they could not win and tried to escape. Pursue them. Destroy any ship that refuses to surrender. The Zephyrian fleet broke formation. Groups of ships chased after the fleeing humans. Within an hour, Cathrane's perfect sphere was scattered across the solar system. His ships hunted the humans through asteroid fields and around planets. It was exactly what Admiral Chun wanted. On the bridge of the human ship Indomitable, Fleet Commander Marcus Torres watched the alien fleet spread out. He was a short, stocky man with scars on his hands from the resource wars. His great-grandmother had fought in those terrible conflicts, and she had taught him that sometimes the best defense was to look weak. "All units, this is Torres," he said into his communication system. "The enemy has taken the bait. Begin Phase 2. Hidden in the asteroid belt, 30 human ships had been waiting in complete silence. They had been there for weeks, their engines cold and their weapons powered down. The alien sensors could not detect ships that were not moving or producing energy. Now, those ships came alive. The first attack came without warning. A Zephyrian cruiser was chasing 3 human fighters through an asteroid field when a railgun projectile hit it at 15% of light speed. The projectile was just a piece of metal, but at that speed, hit harder than any energy weapon. The alien ship's shields were designed to stop energy beams and plasma bolts. They were useless against simple mass, moving at incredible velocity. The projectile punched through the ship's armor like it was paper. The cruiser exploded in a ball of fire and metal. "What was that?" Cathrane demanded as alarms sounded on his bridge. "Unknown weapon, sir," his sensor officer replied. "I detected no energy signature before impact." 3 more explosions lit up the asteroid belt. Then 2 more near Mars. The human fighters the aliens were chasing suddenly turned around and attacked with weapons that seemed impossible. Kinetic projectiles, missile swarms, and something the Zephyrians had never seen before. Fighters that worked together like a single mind. Captain Vorth stared at his tactical display. How are they coordinating without communications we can detect? The answer was something the Empire had forgotten. Pilots who trained together until they could predict each other's moves. Human fighter squadrons did not need constant radio chatter. They flew together like birds in a flock, each pilot knowing exactly where the others would be. But the real shock came when the first human ship was damaged. Instead of retreating for repairs, the pilot aimed his fighter at the nearest alien cruiser and engaged emergency thrust. The Zephyrian captain watched in horror as the human ship accelerated directly toward him. "He is going to ram us." The alien captain screamed, "Shields to maximum." The human fighter struck the cruiser's shields at full speed. The shields held for exactly 2 seconds before the fighter's fusion reactor destabilized. The explosion tore a hole in the cruiser's side and left it drifting powerless. Cathrane felt something he had not experienced in centuries: fear. What kind of species uses suicide attacks as standard tactics? On Luna Station, Admiral Chun watched the battle through her command center's displays. Each human ship was broadcasting its status, and she could see the whole battle like a chess game. The aliens were powerful, but they fought like they expected easy victory. They had never faced an enemy that treated every ship as a potential weapon. "Commander Torres," she said into her communicator, "execute Phase 3. Around Jupiter, another group of human ships had been waiting. These were not fighters, but cargo haulers and mining ships. The aliens had ignored them because they looked harmless. That was their second mistake. The cargo ships opened their holds and released clouds of metal debris. In zero gravity, thousands of pieces of scrap metal became a deadly cloud moving at orbital velocity. Zephyrian ships tried to pursue human fighters, suddenly found themselves flying through a storm of high-speed projectiles. The mining ships were even more creative. They used their asteroid-breaking charges as weapons, creating explosions that sent rock fragments flying in all directions. What had been tools for building human colonies became weapons for defending them. But the most terrifying moment came when a damaged human destroyer called the Wellington found itself surrounded by 3 alien cruisers. The ship's captain, Elena Vasquez, made a decision that no Zephyrian could understand. Instead of surrendering, she ordered her crew to abandon ship. Then she programmed the Wellington's autopilot with a simple command: ram the largest enemy vessel. At maximum speed, the empty ship accelerated toward the alien flagship like a guided missile. The Zephyrians tried to destroy it with their energy weapons, but the Wellington's armor was designed to survive asteroid impacts. The ship absorbed their fire and kept coming. When it struck, the collision destroyed both vessels instantly. But the explosion also damaged the other 2 cruisers, leaving them easy targets for human fighters. Kethron watched his fleet being torn apart by tactics that made no sense. These humans fought without honor, without proper formations, without following any rules of civilized warfare. They turned everything into a weapon: their ships, their environment, even their own deaths. "Sir," his communication officer said nervously, "the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies." "Put it through," Kethron ordered. Admiral Chan's voice filled the bridge of every Zephyrian ship. "Ambassador Kethran, you wanted to see how primitive humans fight. This is just the beginning. We have been studying warfare for thousands of all years while your empire grew soft from easy victories. You picked the wrong species to threaten." As if to prove her point, another group of human ships emerged from behind Earth's moon. These were not the scattered refugees Kethran had expected. They moved in perfect formation, each ship supporting the others. It was the human fleet's main battle group, and they were advancing on his position. Kethran realized that everything he had seen was just a trap. The humans had never intended to flee. They had drawn his ships out of formation and then attacked. When the aliens were scattered and confused, for the first time in his long career, Ambassador Kethran faced an enemy that might actually win. The hunter had become the hunted, and the galaxy was about to learn why humans had never been conquered by anyone except themselves. The human battle group approached the Zephyrian flagship like wolves circling wounded prey. 50 ships moved in perfect coordination, their formation changing smoothly as they advanced. Ambassador Kethran had never seen anything like it. How? Are they maintaining formation without constant communication? Captain Vorth asked, staring at the tactical display. The answer was simple but terrifying: discipline. Human crews had trained together for years. They knew their roles so well that they could function as one organism, while the Zephyrians relied on individual ship captains making independent decisions. The humans fought as a single mind with 50 bodies. Fleet Commander Torres led the advance from his flagship, the Indomitable. He had studied every battle in human history, from ancient Rome to the resource wars. The formation his ships used was thousands of years old, but it still worked. Concentrate your force, hit the enemy where they are weakest, and never give them time to recover. All ships, this is Torres, he said calmly. Execute pattern Delta. Target their flagship. The human formation split into 3 groups. One attacked from above, one from below, and one straight ahead. But they did not spread out randomly like the Zephyrians had done. Each group stayed tight and focused. hitting the same target from different angles. Catherine's flagship shuddered under the coordinated assault. Energy beams, kinetic projectiles, and missile swarms struck his shields from all directions. The Eternal Glory was powerful, but it was designed to fight one enemy at a time, not 3 coordinated attacks. "Return fire," Catherine ordered. "All weapons." The flagship's massive energy cannons fired back, but the human ships were already moving. They did not stay in one place long enough to be easy targets. Instead, they flowed around the alien ship like water around a rock, always attacking but never staying still. But the real terror began when the first Zephyrian transport ship was boarded. Commander Elena Vasquez led a team of human marines onto the alien vessel using small boarding pods. The Zephyrians had expected this and prepared their defenses. What they had not expected was how humans fought in close quarters. The alien marines who met them in the docking bay were tall and strong, with advanced energy weapons and personal shields. They outnumbered the humans 3 to 1. By every logical measure, they should have won easily. Instead, they faced something no Zephyrian had encountered in 10,000 years. Enemies who used their environment as a weapon. Vasquez and her team did not fight in the open docking bay. They retreated into the ship's corridors, forcing the aliens to follow them into narrow spaces where numbers meant nothing. The humans knew exactly how to fight in enclosed areas, because they had been doing it for centuries. The first Zephyrian squad that followed them walked into a trap. Vasquez had rigged the corridor's lighting system to explode when stepped on. The blast killed 3 aliens and blinded the rest. Her marines finished them off with kinetic weapons that punched through their energy shields. But that was just the beginning. As the battle moved deeper into the ship, the humans used every trick they could think of. They cut power to sections of the ship, plunging their enemies into darkness. A vented atmosphere from rooms, sucking aliens into space. They even turned the ship's gravity generators into weapons, creating crushing forces that no living being could survive. The Zephyrian ship captain watched in horror as his vessel was systematically destroyed from the inside. These humans did not fight like soldiers. They fought like pirates, terrorists, and guerrilla fighters all at once. They had no honor, no respect for the rules of warfare. They only cared about winning. "How do we stop them?" his first officer asked desperately. The captain had no answer. His people had forgotten how to fight dirty because they had never needed to. The Empire's overwhelming power had made clean, honorable warfare possible. But humans came from a world where honor meant nothing if you died. Back in space, the battle was turning into a disaster for the Zephyrian fleet. More human ships kept arriving from hidden positions throughout the solar system. Each group that appeared used different tactics, as if they were testing every possible way to kill aliens. Some human ships used swarm tactics, surrounding single alien vessels with dozens of fighters. Others used their speed to hit and run, striking fast and disappearing before the aliens could respond. A few simply rammed enemy ships, trading their lives for guaranteed kills. But the most frightening human ships were the ones that looked damaged. Zephyrian captains would see a human vessel limping away with smoke trailing from its engines. They would move in for an easy kill, only to discover that the damage was fake. Hidden weapons would emerge from the wreckage and destroy the alien. Ship at point-blank range. Admiral Chun watched the battle from Luna Station with cold satisfaction. Every human ship captain was following plans they had rehearsed for years. They knew exactly what to do because humanity had spent decades preparing for this war. "Admiral," her communication officer reported, "we are receiving surrender offers from 17 enemy ships." "Rejected," Chun replied without hesitation. "No prisoners until their ambassador surrenders unconditionally." This was psychological warfare at its finest. The surviving Zephyrians could see that humans were not interested in mercy or negotiation. They would fight until every alien ship was destroyed or fled the system. It was total war, and the aliens had never experienced anything like it. On the bridge of the eternal glory, Kethron finally understood what he was facing. These humans were not just defending their world. They were showing the galaxy what happened when someone threatened Earth. Every alien ship they destroyed sent a message to the rest of the Empire. This is what happens when you underestimate humanity. Sir, his sensor officer said quietly. Long range. Scanners are detecting more human ships approaching from deep space. Kethran looked at the display and felt his hope die. The new contacts were massive. Human dreadnoughts and battlecruisers that had been hidden beyond the solar system's edge. They were moving in formation toward Earth, and their weapon signatures were unlike anything in his databases. The humans had not just prepared to defend their home system. They had prepared to take the war to the galaxy itself. Communications. Kethran said heavily. Open a channel to Admiral Chun. This is Admiral Chun, came the immediate reply. Admiral, I request a ceasefire to discuss terms. There was a long pause. When Chun spoke again, her voice was cold as space itself. Ambassador, you came here to conquer us. You threatened our world and our children. Now you want to negotiate? Yes, Kethran said desperately. Surely we can reach an agreement. We can, Chun replied, when you and every ship in your fleet surrenders unconditionally. When you broadcast to your empire that humanity is not to be threatened. When you understand that Earth's children do not bow to anyone. Kethran looked around his bridge. Half his fleet was destroyed or fleeing. The other half was trapped in a solar system full of humans who fought like demons. His mighty empire's reputation for invincibility was burning along with his ships. For the first time in 10,000 years, a Zephyrian ambassador was about to surrender to a primitive species. Galaxy would never be the same. The human dreadnought fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system like ancient gods of war descending from heaven. 50 massive ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls dark against the stars. Each vessel was 3 times larger than the biggest Zephyrian cruiser, and they advanced with mechanical precision that made hardened alien veterans feel afraid. Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of her flagship, Devastation. Around her, the command crew worked in silence, their movements efficient and deadly calm. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Kethron's surrender at Earth. 6 months of hunting down every Zephyrian fleet that refused to acknowledge humanity's new status in the galaxy. The Proxima Centauri system contained the Empire's largest military base outside their home sector. Fortress Proxima was built inside an asteroid and protected by energy shields that could stop planet-killing weapons. 200 alien warships guarded it, commanded by Admiral Zex Carr, who had sworn to die before surrendering to primitive mammals. Chun studied the tactical display with cold eyes. Commander Torres, status report. Fleet Commander Torres stood beside her, his uniform crisp despite the months of constant warfare. All ships report ready, Admiral. The enemy fleet is maintaining defensive formation around their base. They are trying to force us to attack their strongest position. Chun smiled without humor. Then we will not attack where they expect. Communications. Open a channel to the enemy commander. The main screen flickered and showed Admiral Zexkar on his command bridge. He was larger than most Zephyrians, with ritual scars covering his blue skin. His forearms moved in gestures of defiance as he spoke. So the mammals finally arrive, Zexkar said with obvious contempt. I am not weak like Kethron. My ships will not run from you. Good, Chun replied simply. Running would only delay the inevitable. Zexkar's eyes flared brighter. You think your victory at Earth means you can defeat the entire Empire? I have 200 ships and the most powerful fortress in this sector. Your 50 ships cannot prevail against such odds. Chun looked at her tactical officer. Lieutenant, show Admiral Zexkar what he is really facing. The human fleet's formation suddenly changed. Ships that had appeared to be moving together separated into multiple groups. What looked like 50 vessels revealed itself to be nearly 200. Small attack ships emerged from behind the larger vessels, like deadly insects leaving their nests. But that was not the worst surprise. Hidden in the shadows of nearby asteroids, more human ships revealed themselves. Stealth vessels that had been waiting in the system for weeks suddenly appeared on sensors. Zexkar realized he was not facing one human fleet, but 3. Impossible, the alien admiral whispered. Our sensors detected only 50 ships. Your sensors detected what we wanted them to detect, Chun replied. Admiral, you are surrounded by 400 human vessels. Your base cannot escape. Your ships cannot retreat. Surrender now, and your crews will live. Zexkar's response was to order an immediate attack. A battle that followed became legendary throughout the galaxy. The Zephyrian fleet attacked with the fury of cornered animals, their energy weapons creating storms of light in the darkness of space. They fought with the desperation of soldiers who knew their empire's reputation hung in the balance. But the humans fought with something the aliens could not match. Perfect coordination. The human fleet moved like a single organism with 400 bodies. When one group attacked from above, another struck from below. When the aliens concentrated their fire on the human right flank, the left flank and center attacked simultaneously. It was warfare as art, and the humans were master artists. Commander Torres led the central attack group with mechanical precision. His ships advanced in a formation that was thousands of years old, but had never been improved upon. The hammer and anvil. While one group of ships held the enemy's attention, another group hit them from behind. All ships, execute pattern Omega. Torres commanded. Target their command vessels first. The human attack was not random violence. Every shot was calculated, every movement planned. They destroyed the Zephyrian fleet's ability to coordinate before attacking their firepower. Within 30 minutes, the alien ships were fighting as individuals instead of as a unified force. That was when the humans revealed their most terrifying capability. They learned from every battle. Each engagement had taught them more about Zephyrian tactics, technology, and psychology. They knew exactly how alien ships moved, how their shields worked, and how their crews reacted under pressure. The humans had turned warfare into a science, and they had studied their enemy until they knew them better than the aliens knew themselves. Captain Elena Vasquez led a squadron of human destroyers against the fortress itself. The massive structure bristled with weapons that could destroy entire fleets, but Vasquez had studied its design for months. She knew exactly where its weak points were hidden. All ships, target the shield generators, she ordered. Pattern Beta 7. Maximum acceleration. Her squadron split into 3 groups and attacked the fortress from different angles simultaneously. The alien gunners could not track all the targets at once. While they concentrated on stopping 2 groups, the 3rd group reached the shield generators and destroyed them with precisely placed kinetic strikes. Without shields, Fortress Proxima was just a large asteroid with weapons. The human fleet surrounded it and began systematically destroying its defenses. They did not waste shots or time. Each weapon fired had a specific target and purpose, but the humans saved their most devastating tactic for last dot. As the battle reached its climax, Admiral Chun activated a communication system that reached across the entire galaxy. Every Zephyrian world, every alien species, every Empire outpost received the same message simultaneously. This is Admiral Sarah Chun, of the human defense force. Her voice echoed across 1,000 star systems. You are watching the destruction of Fortress Proxima, the Empire's most powerful military base. This is what happens when you threaten humanity's children. The broadcast showed the battle in real time. Alien leaders across the galaxy watched human ships move with impossible coordination. They saw the mighty Zephyrian fleet being systematically destroyed by an enemy that fought like no species they had ever encountered. The psychological impact was devastating. For 10,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had maintained control through fear of their military might. Now everyone could see that might being crushed by a species most aliens had never heard of 6 months ago. Admiral Zexkar made his last desperate gamble. He ordered his remaining ships to ram the human vessels, trading their lives for damage to the enemy fleet. It was the same tactic humans had used at Earth, turned against them. But the humans were ready for this too. They had learned to read alien desperation and knew when enemies would choose suicide attacks. The human ships simply moved out of the way, letting the alien vessels crash into empty space or their own fortress. Admiral Zexkar, Sean said over the communication channel, your fleet is destroyed. Your fortress is defenseless. Will you surrender, or shall we demonstrate what happens to those who refuse? Zexkar looked around his damaged bridge. Most of his ships were gone. His mighty fortress was burning. The humans had achieved in 6 hours what no enemy had managed in 10,000 years of galactic history. I surrender, he said quietly. Chun nodded. Wise decision. You will broadcast your surrender to the entire Empire. You will tell them that humanity is not to be threatened, and you will explain what happens to those who do not listen. As Zexkar's surrender echoed across the galaxy, Chun looked out at the wreckage of the once mighty fortress. The Empire was learning that Earth's children did not just defend their homes. They carried the war to their enemies and finished it completely. The message was clear. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy, and they were not asking for permission to stay. Emperor Vexstar stood alone in his throne room, staring at the holographic display that showed the collapse of his 10,000-year empire. Red indicators marked every system where his fleets had been destroyed or had surrendered to human forces. In just 8 months, the mighty Zephyrian Empire had been reduced to its home sector and a handful of loyal worlds. The Emperor was old, even by his species standards. He had ruled for 6 centuries and conquered dozens of star systems. Never, in his worst nightmares, had he imagined this. His vast empire brought low by a single world of mammals who had only recently learned to travel between stars. A soft chime announced an incoming message. The Emperor's aide, a nervous young Zephyrian named Coulter, entered the throne room with trembling hands. Your Majesty, Coulter said quietly, the human fleet has arrived at the edge of our home system. Admiral Chun is requesting, no, demanding, an audience. Vexstar closed his eyes. The humans had finally come for the heart of his empire. Their fleet of 300 ships hung like a dark cloud at the edge of Zephyrian space, waiting for his response. He could order his home fleet to attack, but he had seen what happened to every other Zephyrian force that faced the humans in battle. Send them safe passage to the capital, the Emperor said heavily. I will meet with Admiral Chun. The human flagship Devastation entered orbit around Zephyros Prime 12 hours later. It was smaller than the Emperor's palace ship, but something about its dark hull and precise movements made it seem far more dangerous. When Admiral Chun requested to meet aboard her own vessel, Vexstar knew it was not really a request. The Emperor's shuttle docked with the human ship, and he was escorted to the conference room by silent Marines. Admiral Chun waited for him at a simple metal table. She was smaller than most Zephyrians, but her eyes held a hardness that made the Emperor feel very old and very tired. Your Majesty, Chon said without standing. "Please sit." Vexstar took the offered chair and looked around the room. The walls were covered with star charts showing human fleet positions throughout the galaxy. Every major Zephyrian base was marked with human symbols. The message was clear. The Empire was finished. "Admiral Chun," the Emperor said formally, "I congratulate you on your victories. Your species has proven to be formidable opponents." Chun leaned forward slightly. "We are not opponents anymore, Your Majesty. We are the victors, and you are here to surrender." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Vexstar had hoped for negotiations, for some way to save part of his empire. But the human admiral's expression made it clear that complete surrender was the only option. "What are your terms?" he asked quietly. Chon activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy divided into sectors. "First, the Zephyrian Empire will cease all military operations immediately. Your remaining fleets will be disbanded. Your weapons factories will be converted to peaceful purposes." The Emperor nodded reluctantly. His military was already broken, so this demand cost him nothing he still possessed. "Second," Chun continued, "all species that were conquered by your empire will be granted immediate independence. Your forces will withdraw from their worlds within 30 days. This demand struck deeper. The empire's wealth came from tribute, paid by conquered worlds. Without that income, Zephyrian civilization would have to completely restructure itself. Third, reparations. Your empire will pay compensation to every species you conquered, every world you damaged, every population you enslaved." Vexstar felt his heart sink. The cost would bankrupt his people for generations. And if we refuse these terms? Chun's expression did not change. "Then we will impose them by force. Your Majesty, you have seen what happens when humans fight. We do not lose wars. We finish them." The Emperor looked at the star charts again. Human fleets controlled every major trade route in the galaxy. Their bases now protected dozens of formerly conquered worlds. In 8 months, they had built military empire larger than what the Zephyrians had taken centuries to create. "Why?" Vexstar asked. "Why go so far? You could have stopped after defeating our invasion force at Earth. You could have negotiated from a position of strength. Instead, you hunted down every ship, conquered every base. Why destroy an entire empire?" Chun was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of humanity's entire history. "Your Majesty, you made one critical mistake. You threatened our children. When you told us to surrender or face pacification, you declared war on every human who ever lived." She stood and walked to the star chart. "On Earth, we have a saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. We have been preparing for this war since we first detected alien signals. We studied every species in the galaxy. We learned your technologies, your tactics, your weaknesses." The Emperor felt a chill as he realized the truth. "You were never primitive." "No," Chun replied. "We were careful. We let you think we were weak because weak enemies are underestimated. While your empire grew soft from easy victories, we prepared for the day someone would threaten Earth." She turned back to face him. "But there is another reason we went so far. Every species in this galaxy lived in fear of your empire. Billions of beings suffered under your rule. We did not just fight to defend ourselves. We fought to free them all." As if summoned by her words, new displays activated around the room. They showed celebrations on dozens of worlds as human fleets arrived to liberate them from Zephyrian occupation. Former slaves dancing in the streets. Conquered species reclaiming their independence. An entire galaxy breathing freely for the first time in millennia. "You started a war to conquer one world," Chun said. "We finished it to free them all." "Emperor." Vexstar stared at the images of celebration and understood that he was witnessing the birth of a new galactic order. The humans had not just defeated his empire. They had become the protectors of every species the Zephyrians had ever conquered. "I accept your terms," he said quietly. Chun nodded and activated a communication system. "This message will be broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Emperor Vexstar, please repeat after me." With the entire galaxy watching, the Emperor spoke the words that ended 10,000 years of Zephyrian dominance. "I, Emperor Vexstar of the Zephyrian Empire, do hereby surrender unconditionally to Admiral Sarah Chun and the Human Defense Force. The Empire's military operations will cease immediately. All conquered worlds are granted independence. The galaxy is now under the protection of humanity." When the broadcast ended, Chun walked to the conference room's viewport. Earth was visible. In the distance, a blue jewel among the stars. "Your Majesty, this war began because you thought humans were primitive. You were wrong. We are not primitive. We are experienced." Vexstar joined her at the viewport. "What happens now?" "Now?" Chun smiled for the first time since their meeting. "Began. Now we build something better. A galaxy where no species lives in fear of conquest. Where conflicts are resolved through negotiation, not invasion. Where the strong protect the weak instead of enslaving them." As the Emperor was escorted back to his shuttle, he passed through the human ship's corridors. He saw crew members from dozens of different species working alongside the humans. Former slaves who had joined the human fleet to liberate their own worlds. Warriors from conquered planets who had found a new purpose protecting others. The humans had not just defeated the Zephyrian Empire. They had created something the galaxy had never seen. A military force dedicated to peace, protectors who fought only to defend others, conquerors who gave freedom instead of taking it. As his shuttle departed the human flagship, Emperor Vexstar looked back at the Devastation one last time. The ship that had brought his empire to its knees was now heading toward the next system that needed liberation. The galaxy would never be the same. The age of empire was over. The age of protection had begun. And it had all started because someone made the mistake of threatening humanity's children. In his final log entry as emperor, Vexstar wrote, "We sought to conquer a primitive species and instead awakened the galaxy's conscience. The humans call it justice. I call it the end of everything we built and the beginning of something far better." The Devastation did indeed arrive in formation, and from that devastation, peace was born. The war was over. Humanity had won, and the galaxy was finally free.